This broadcast, telecast, podcast, and whatever the hell else it is copyrighted by the Rad Network and the Rob and Steve Sports Show, all found at theradnetwork.com, and is for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction, accounts, or descriptions of this madness without the express permission of the Rad Network and Williams Broadcasting and Rob's Really Mean Lawyers is prohibited. So just don't do it.
This is the Rob and Steve Sports Show, a show all about the thrill of Rob's victories.
Dallas 27, San Francisco 21. The upstart 49ers, they're 6 yards away from the Super Bowl. 3rd and 3. Montana looking, throwing in the end zone. White Clark is 6'4". He stands about 10 feet tall in this crowd's estimation.
And the agony of Steve's defeats.
3 and 2 to Mookie Wilson. Little roller up along first, behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
But mostly, it's about sports, and nothing but sports.
Onside kick to start the second half. And the ball bounces off the hands of a Colt. And it looked like the Saints had it for a second. And it's Saints football. They recover the onside kick. What a fearless start to the second half. Really unbelievable decision.
And now, the Rob and Steve Sports Show.
We actually have an email to get it started here. Came in RAS at theradnetwork.com. It's from Greg, or I'm sorry, from Jeff. Before I read it, though, we do have daytime baseball yet again. Reds are losing 4-0 to the Cardinals. Giants are down 3-2 to the Guardians, and Blue Jays 1-0 over the Rays. We will keep you updated throughout the show. Jeff writes, hey, guys, I was watching the show Quarterback on Netflix. This is where they take 4 different quarterbacks in the NFL, and they follow them around during the year, a little bit into the offseason. Shows them a lot about their family life, where they live, what it's like to train on and off the field, be part of it. It is, like all of these shows, more compelling when the characters are more compelling, when they have somebody on. Like the first season, they had Marcus Mariota on. I was like, I don't want to see this. But it was actually interesting. Kirk Cousins was interesting. So Jeff is writing about, they have Joe Flacco on. I get that Flacco has been past his prime for years. I think peak Joe Flacco, for about a 5-year span, including the Super Bowl win and 2 other AFC Championships games, was underrated and was one of the best quarterbacks of that span. He won 10 or 11 playoff games. He beat the Patriots multiple times. He was a Super Bowl MVP. Do you guys think Joe Flacco belongs in the Hall of Fame? And do you think he was better than Matt Ryan and Phillip Rivers? All right, well, he threw it out there. What do you think? I would never think Joe Flacco in Hall of Fame on the example of we're sitting in a bar, somebody yells this at us. Should I?
I would not ever even consider Joe Flacco for the Hall of Fame. Yes, he had a nice little run in there. I don't think he's better than Phillip Rivers, and I really don't think he's better than Matt Ryan. I think both those quarterbacks were better. He had a nice run. Mark Sanchez had a nice run. He led the Jets to back-to-back AFC championship games, but that doesn't put him in that great category. And again, good quarterback, still playing. I mean, he still can produce. I think he's had a very good career, but he's not a Hall of Famer. For me, the Hall of Fame needs to be the best of the best, and you have to be, considered one of the best at your position in the NFL for an extended period of time. You have to have the fortunate, career to where you're able to play for many years. It's not just, look, Billy Sims was a great running back, but Billy Sims played like 5 years and blew his knee out. And so you can't go there. You have to sustain that career as well. But I think Phillip Rivers had a better year. And I do think that Matt Ryan had a better career. Both of them had better careers than Joe Flacco.
But would either of them be considered for the Hall of Fame?
No. I wouldn't put either one of them in it either.
And I think that a lot of people kind of convolute the various arguments that are out there. For example, most of us feel like if you're going to have an argument over the best quarterback who has played of all time, you have to have some Super Bowl rings in there because it is the one position in football to where you can ding a guy or celebrate a guy because Joe Montana never lost a Super Bowl. He's got 4 rings, he never lost one. Tom Brady's got 7. He lost a couple, but he's got more than any. And people sometimes drag that argument into the Hall of Fame argument. They're totally different. You do not have to win a Super Bowl to order as a quarterback to be in the Hall of Fame. Go through the list, Marino and Fouts and all the greats who never won a Super Bowl, but were clearly one of the greats or the dominating people at their position. And then people do the reverse argument. So if you've won a Super Bowl, you're one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. No, no, Joe Flacco is not. Peyton Manning's not. Doug Williams is not one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. You can't
Trent
be
Dilfer.
Right. There's so many. There's Hostetler. Didn't he win one? There's plenty of quarterbacks who won one that aren't in the conversation. But to be in the conversation of greatest quarterbacks of all time, you need to win one, and then people convolute that and mix it up, and they get into the Hall of Fame. No, none of those names. Joe Flacco, who else? Matt Ryan. No, they're not Hall of Famers. Great, and whoever the third one was. No, they're not.
Philip Rivers.
Philip Rivers is not a Hall of Famer. No, I don't want any of them right now in their current state. Philip Rivers, he did his little thing last year. That was neat, but I don't want him on my team. So I'm not sure where all that was going, but no, Joe Flacco, not a Hall of Famer. We agree. Even if you dumb it down to, is the football one the Hall of very good, but not good yet? One of them's Hall of good and one's Hall of very good for you.
Well, they were both Hall of very good, but when Andrew Jones got in this past summer, I kind of dropped it to the Hall of good, because I just, you will not convince me ever that Andrew Jones belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Staying with football, we got 2 games tonight. The Raiders are at the Texans. If you're not getting it on a local channel, you get it on ESPN at 5 West Coast time, 7 o'clock on the NFL Network for the Niners and the Chargers. The ongoing thing, Steve, preseason football, Kyle Shanahan of the Niners said a number of starters will play, somewhere between 0 and 11. I guess it's sounding more like it'll be the traditional, we'll have some starters for a series. How long will Brock Purdy play, et cetera? What am I supposed to be caring about or watching? These are the only 2 games tonight. Raiders, Texans, Niners, Chargers. There's a lot of things I want to see about these teams, Steve. I don't think I'm going to see any of it tonight, but I have questions about all 4 teams. Am I going to learn about CJ Stroud tonight when they host the Raiders? I don't really feel like I am.
I don't think you're going to learn about CJ Stroud, but the things that I look for in these games, and I'm hoping the starters go at least the first quarter, maybe into the second quarter, because this is the game I think they need to stretch it out a little bit, get a little bit of that game time, because next week is the final week. And it's like, look, if you're healthy right now, our goal now is get you healthy into the season. So this is the game I would test drive them a bit. But the thing I like looking at is, okay, what are the backups doing? Where's our depth at wide receiver? Do we have any good young players who are stepping up and looking to perform? We saw Carson Beck in the Hall of Fame game step up. And I'm not saying Carson Beck's ready to be a starter in the NFL, but it was promising. The 49ers wide receivers, look, is anybody healthy enough to play? And if our wide receivers are not healthy enough to play, do we have anyone who looks like they are able to contribute to our offense? Same with I'd want to see Black, the running back, the 3rd round pick. Just go see what he can do. For the Raiders, I'm interested for the most part with Mendoza. How much time is he going to play? Is Kirk Cousins going to play the first half, Mendoza play the second half? Or is Cousins now they're going to back him off and maybe he plays the first quarter and we get to see, the second quarter, third quarter with Mendoza. And I want to see how Mendoza continues to develop and, on his mechanics, his timing and all those other things. So it's really just, as a fan, just trying to get confidence that you have what I always preach about, depth. And that's what I'm looking for in the preseason games, is what kind of depth do we have? Does our second string defense just get blown off the field by every opponent we play? And I've seen that several years. And then it's like, oh man, we lose anybody on the defensive side of the ball, we're not going to be able to do anything. And that's how I'd watch the Cowboys. We know they're going to score points. Where's their defense? We know their defense is supposed to be better, but is it better? What do they do on the first couple of drives if they shut them down and then they can't stop from that point on? Then it's like, okay, our starters are good, but our backups are not. So for me, there's a lot to look at. Unfortunately, not a lot of it is very exciting. It's just kind of getting a feel and an observation, so you might get familiar with some of these players. It's like watching the third and fourth lines in hockey. It's like, yeah, look, when they score, it's wonderful, but you don't have the high expectations from those players.
Well, and that's the thing. Like I said, each of these teams, I can pick out something I want to learn. I just don't know how much I'm going to learn from any of them tonight. Yes, the Mendoza thing is probably the obvious one. I'll get to see him dance around and throw, and that's good. That is something as a fan you want to see. Am I really going to learn about the 49ers receiver core? I mean, just because they're not playing, does that mean that they're not going to be ready to go on game one? Are they just being careful? If the entire crew is too injured or soft to not play, do I care about who's 7th or 8th on the list? I don't know.
See, I think you do. I think you want to see what Stribling can do. Is he ready to contribute immediately, or is he not? And Mike Evans is going to get hurt. You see wide receivers out for the year. For the Niners, would want to see their wide receiver depth, and do they have someone that I may not know about be able to step up and contribute to this team?
I mean, the big thing that all fans should be looking for, and you don't have to watch them, is you just hope nobody important. I mean, all human life matters, but nobody important gets hurt. Nobody's out for the season. Nobody gets done for the season. That's always the scariest thing. And then essentially, with very rare exception, and there are going to be some exceptions, there's no reason to watch next week. For there's going to be the Browns, if they keep going, trying to figure out who's going to be their starting quarterback. Maybe the Steelers, which one of them are they going to keep? But for the most part, next week, week 3, because a lot of people are still adjusting. There's only 3 of these now, thank God, is the real waste. So if you're going to see anything this weekend, today, tomorrow, Saturday would be your most likely time to see something.
Yes, this is the week you got to see something. If they don't have an idea of who's going and what the starters are and what their depth chart is by week 3, we're not gonna know. And the only things to look at are any of those teams' quarterback issues. The Cleveland Browns, what are they going to do? The Arizona Cardinals, who are they going with? We believe Kyler Murray is going to be the starter for the Vikings, but if J.J. McCarthy goes out this week and has a great game, will that put him in the conversation? I still don't think so. So there's only a few things you look for next week. It's a couple of quarterback positions, because everyone knows the running backs, the wide receivers, all the other positions. Just if there is still a quarterback position, as you said, still going on for next week.
And a lot of them are like backup quarterback positions with the Steelers and with the Lions. They have announced they are going to start Joshua Dobbs, who they rush signed on Saturday. I don't know why it came up, but Dan Campbell, the head coach of the Lions, was asked about his famous quote after the Lions, in one of Steve's favorite moments of his lifetime, blew that 17-point halftime lead over the Niners in the 2023 NFC Championship. At that time, Dan Campbell famously said, quote, "This may have been our only shot," end quote. You just lost. You probably made maybe what'll be the dumbest decision of your life, and you're not feeling good. You say things like that. Then they go out last year. Most Lions fans, including you, Steve, would put it somewhere around the pathetic line of how last season went. So, especially given the standard that Dan Campbell has created, he insisted this morning, in his 6 years as head coach, the Lions still have a shot. Quote, "Our window is not closed. We fell short last year, but needed to get in the playoffs, and now it's about the matchups, where you're playing and who you're playing," end quote. One of the things we learned, Steve, when we went over the schedules, was that with the Lions finishing 4th last year, last place in the NFC North, they got that benefit of the scheduling formula. The other teams, all viable playoff candidates, that will have, for example, the first place Bears playing the Texans, the Eagles, and the Seahawks. The second place Packers have to play the Jaguars, the Cowboys, and the Rams. The Lions, thanks to bringing up the rear, face the Titans, the Giants, and the Cardinals. So they do get the benefit of that. I didn't know, though, that I needed Coach Dan Campbell to tell me that the Lions window is not closed. Now, you're Eeyore as a fan, so I never know if I can rely on you, but I didn't feel like we were having that discussion with the Lions yet. The Niners, yeah. The Bills, yeah. I thought the Lions window still had 2 or 3 more seasons. Are you starting to think, no, we're down to 1 or 2?
I think the Lions window is this year. If they don't perform this year with that schedule, I think the window closes. If they perform and do what I think, even if they don't win the Super Bowl or even go to the Super Bowl, I think they have like 1 or 2 more years to go. But if you can't make it through this one, I don't see where you go from here.
Well, they could make it, but they might not have enough to, let's say, win the Super Bowl.
No. I'm saying if they go out and they go 7-10
Oh,
this
yeah,
year
no.
with this schedule, I don't see where they go forward from here.
Agreed. If they get deep into the playoffs, if they go to another NFC championship, if they go to a Super Bowl and lose, I don't feel like their window is closed, though. If they lay an egg in the regular season with that schedule, minus half the front line is decimated by injury, that's a big problem. That's a rebuild. That's Dan Campbell's job, for God's sakes. But they get deep in the postseason, they still have a window.
Oh, if they make the playoffs, I think they have a window. And if they win their first game in the playoffs, I think their window's open wider. My window is closed is they go lay an egg. They're drafted in the top 12 picks of the NFL draft this next year.
Oh.
And it's just the wheels came off. And honestly, I'm not sure Dan Campbell still has a job at the end of the season if it gets ugly and they have a terrible regular season. And I think a lot of it has to do with last year. The team fell apart, and we knew going in, you can't lose your defensive coordinators, all the coaches that they lost off the staff. I get all of that, and we could see that coming. My problem is Dan Campbell changed who he was during the season and became the offensive coordinator. The Lions lost their identity. They were always that blue-collar, physical team that played to the whistle. Everybody worked together. And last year, that all went away. Their entire identity went away. And for Dan Campbell, and I don't understand it to this day, why he felt when he's never called plays in his life that he's going to take over and call the plays for the second half of the season. No matter how good the Lions offense is, he's going to be the play caller. To me, it was just the wrong decision of many wrong decisions that he made last year.
And that's another reason I made that comment, that if the Lions laid an egg this year, if they didn't get to the playoffs, I don't see how Dan Campbell keeps his job for 2 reasons. One, you alluded to one, a lot of missteps. He's the guy, like we've talked about. You ride the horse that got you there. He rolls the dice and all that, but that wears thin when you're not winning. But also because there is no excuse to not win with this team. So if he's not win, and I'm trying to do the scenario, under what scenario is it week 8 and the Lions are 3-5? I mean, without looking at a schedule, anything like that, it's like, this has got to be falling apart left and right. How is Campbell handling it? Et cetera, because other than that, they've got to go. So when I hear somebody saying about windows opening and closing, I'm thinking, you have a staff, you have a makeup of a team that should be competitive and should be competing for a championship year after year after year for X, like the Chiefs. The Chiefs window seems to be potentially closing depending on what they're going to do moving forward. Niners, you closed it, I think, over a year ago. These I get. I didn't get it with the Lions. Yes. Horrible regular season. That alters the trajectory of the earth in Detroit football big time, because I don't know what scenario under which that happens. With that, these articles of teams that are projected to perform beyond their expectations. I always hate that word. Well, whose expectations? For example, this was ESPN. They went out and asked their insiders. They came up with 23 insiders and they voted. And one of the teams, as they said, that will emerge or that will do better than their expectations and will emerge as legitimate Super Bowl contenders this year. I don't think this is outlandish at all. I don't think this is the Bengals. The Bengals themselves have said, we have everything we need to win. Joe Burrow and Coach what's his name, who should have been fired 2 years ago, they've both said we have everything. How is that exceeding expectations if the Bengals are a Super Bowl contender?
And that's where it's tough. You and I have them winning that division, and what do you have them at? Like 12 wins, something like that in the season. So that's our expectations. Now you got to exceed that. Maybe if they go 15-2, I would say they've exceeded our expectations. But I believe looking at the Bengals' entire schedule, I think they're an underdog in like 3 games. They're going to be favored in something like 14 games. If you're going to be favored in 14 games and somebody's expectations are the over and under should be 8.5 wins, well, I think you're wrong there, because if they just win half the games that they're favored in and go 7-7, they still only need 2 more wins to go over that. And I can't see them going 7-7 in 14 games if they're favored.
You also can't use, if you're going to use the word expectations, you can't use last year's 6-11 record. Right. We all know why that happened. We're talking about expectations for this year. Of course, we all expect them to win 7 or more games. That's the expectation. That's not the expectations much bigger than that. That would be like the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays next year, they might finish in last place in the American League East this year. We expect them to be a World Series contender next year, based right now, if there is a season, on what we know. So they can't be basing it on that. So right away, I went, I don't know about this.
And I go to, we talked about it 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, maybe, which last place teams have the best chance at making the playoffs. That works. Hey, look, which ones do? The Blue Jays next year? I'm going to throw the Blue Jays in there as a last place team if they finish last to have the best chance to make the playoffs. But this one, just expectations. Well, if your expectations, as you said, is last year's record, that's a bad scenario.
So let's look at the other 3. Maybe the other 3 aren't as heinous, depending on what our expectation. One of them, I would be surprised at that one. Okay, so one of them is, whose expectations are we rolling with on the Dallas Cowboys, and are they going to be better? Because the big question is the defense, which presumes they really are gaudy, greatest offense that is, according to Dak Prescott and his shirt. So right away, that expectation everybody has. You were the number 1 offense, so that better still be there. Any dip in the offense, we got a problem. And then, okay, I guess what? If the Cowboys' defense is one of the top 5 defenses in the league, and that probably means they're 7-1 or 9-1, that's going to be above expectations, way above. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, aren't we all kind of about 500-ish with the Cowboys? 9-8-ish?
Yes, and where I'm asking there is just back off the media. I've been listening to the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl for 30 years now. Hey, here's a thought. Why don't you win a couple of playoff games and or get a Super Bowl appearance before you start going on there? And for the Cowboys, for me, is exceeding expectations would be a top 10 defense. I'm not saying top 5. If the Cowboys defense is a top 10 defense this year, the Cowboys defense has exceeded my expectations. But that offense, I mean, as you said, anything lower than top 3 in the NFL, now you're saying that their offense is not even meeting my expectations because they have a lot of power there. But for them to exceed expectations, the defense has to at least be a top 10 defense.
But also, it does have to translate to wins.
It does.
Like, for example, like with the Bengals, they actually wrote that the Bengals will be a Super Bowl contender, which I don't think that exceeds expectations. I don't think that's a big deal. I think that's what the Bengals should. Are we expecting the Cowboys to be a Super Bowl contender? Is that the legitimate? Take the media out of it, take Jerry Jones out of it. Is that the legitimate expectation for the Cowboys? I guess, is it? Maybe.
If I don't think, take the media out of it and Jerry Jones out of it, I don't think anybody expects the Cowboys to go to the Super Bowl. No. The media does. We hear it every year. It just doesn't matter. We hear it every single year, which is the media bias. And I would tell you, if they got to the Super Bowl, yes, they exceeded my expectations.
Yes, I will agree with that one. That one, absolutely. And definitely the other two. If we're using, because they didn't use that word, they just said expectations. They used that term, Super Bowl contenders with the Bengals, but that's as close as I think we get to an actual number. I'd be shocked if I would be shocked if the Cowboys were Super Bowl contenders. They don't even have to get to the Super. They're in the NFC Championship. I'm probably going to be surprised.
I think they're a playoff contender.
Yes. Yes.
Not if they go to the NFC Championship game, I will tell you they exceeded my expectations.
What about the Vikings? That to me seems like a big time exceeding expectations. If somehow Kyler Murray and or JJ McCarthy or whatever they do makes them legitimate play. Yes, I know they still have Justin Jefferson and they still have Brian Flores and this great defensive coordinator stuff and all this other stuff. In that division, it would exceed my expectations if they got to the postseason.
A playoff spot with the Vikings would exceed my expectations. I agree with that. Now, if you drop them in a different division and you say, look, we're going to drop you in the NFC South, I'm like, yeah, the whole division 7-10. Okay, maybe they can win 8 games and go to the playoffs. I just don't, Caleb Williams still developing and becoming one of the elite quarterbacks. Jordan Love, I still think, is a really, really good quarterback. A couple questions with the Packers. But this Packers team is going to be really good. I think we have them at like 11 or 12 wins. And the Lions have the schedule. So if the Vikings make the playoffs, and this is where that exceeding your expectations, look, I agree with the Vikings. I don't put them in the conversation for the Super Bowl under any means, but exceeding my expectations if they make the playoffs, yes.
Yes, which perfectly puts us to the fourth and final team. Would any of those NFC South teams exceed our expectations if they won the South? I mean,
No.
Seriously, right? Would
Doesn't
it really
matter who.
Right? The Panthers, big deal. A big deal. It's the NFC. Okay. All right. We agree on that. It would exceed our expectations, wouldn't it, if any, including the Buccaneers of the South, were legitimate deep playoff contenders? Somebody's getting to the playoffs, but like contenders for conference championship or even maybe division.
I think because we've seen teams, we've seen the playoffs where the division winner has been below 500 and gone out and won that very first playoff game. So you're going to have a division leader who's going to get a home game in the playoffs. If they win the first one, okay. I cannot see, and it would exceed my expectations if any NFC South team went to the NFC Championship game, let alone to the Super Bowl. But it would take going to the championship game to really exceed my expectations. Because as I said, you win the division, you got a home game. If you can find a way to win that one home game, you're already into that divisional round. So that's not exceeding.
And that's why I threw this one out, because exceeding expectations, somebody's got to win. And they didn't say Super Bowl contender. They went with the team we said's going to win, the Saints. And they said they'll get in under 500. And that's kind of, well, then they didn't really exceed expectations. If we agreed that anybody winning that division is not exceeding expectations, if you're not going anywhere, then that was it felt lazy. It felt like they had a deadline to hit and they wrote down 4 teams.
And they said that they're going to exceed their expectations and not win the division and not be above 500.
Right, 8 and 9 they have met. Yes.
Who has expectation? Oh, you've exceeded my expectations because you went 8 and 9. I don't care. Maybe Arizona, the Raiders. There's a couple of teams I'd give you that 8 wins. Yes, they really are exceeding my expectations. But that whole entire division, as you said, in that USA article or whatever it was, they had the whole thing at 7. So that's the bar. That's the ceiling and the floor. It just, everyone should win at least 7 out of that division.
Yes, and like you say, the teams that would surprise you to get to 18, there's specific, or 8 wins. There's specific reasons why. You mentioned the Raiders. I don't remember who else. I mean, right away. Did you mention the Cardinals? Because they would be a surprise. That would be a real shock.
Yeah, the Cardinals,
the
the
Jets.
Browns, the Jets.
Dolphins.
Now, I will tell you this. If any of those teams hit 13 wins,
Oh,
then they've exceeded my expectations.
oh.
But 12-5 out of that division, hey, look, I'm a little bit better. I go 6-0 in my division. Now I'm just basically playing 6-5 football the rest of the way. So 13 wins for me on any of those teams out of there would be needed, or NFC Championship game or Super Bowl for them to exceed my expectations.
And either way, you would think the worst 13-win team of all time in NFL history. It's just because you've been handed 6 of them by the other 3 teams that just have to be even more god-awful than we expected.
Yeah, but I would ask, how many did the Jags win last year? If they went 13-4, I think they did that. Yep. That still is one of the worst 13-win teams in my mind in NFL history.
Rob and Steve continue next, only on the radnetwork.com.
The first time Corey walked into my home, I came around the corner, extended my right hand to shake it, and said to him, "Wow, you're big." And that would be Corey from QuickDumpsters.com. Quick is spelled wrong intentionally. Quick, Q-U-I, can charge and removed dozens of boxes of total junk, unusable dog kennels, desks that were falling apart, a worthless old smoker that couldn't be fixed, bag after bag of crap, and I can't remember what else. He was quick, spelled wrong, Q-U-I-K, quiet and clean. Well, he wasn't clean. I mean, he was. But I'm not commenting on his hygiene. I meant that his work was clean. He swept everything when he was done, and the house looked like he'd never even been there. Corey's the real deal, and I couldn't be more proud and happy to call him a brand new advertiser. His story's incredible, his dedication unmatched, and his motivation to succeed larger than he is, and that's saying something. Quotes are free. You don't even have to have them over to your house. Just send him some pics or videos, and you'll get your price, schedule your day and time, and watch someone else get that junk out of your house. Go to QuickDumpsters.com. Quick, Q-U-I-K, Dumpsters.com. Quick, Q-U-I-K, Dumpsters.com. Longtime maggots will remember Greg from MAP, M-A-P, as in Maximum Athletic Performance, which guides you to better output through better ingredients, also known as nutrition. Greg has been on the Rad Show many times and will be again, as he simplifies nutrition and helps us all understand what actually works when it comes to fueling our bodies, almost all of which can be found at maptrition.com. Every product is formulated with clinical precision and backed by science and purpose, and maptrition.com has something for every fitness level, even those of us who barely have a fitness level. With nearly 20 years as a nutritionist and a specialization in sports nutrition, Greg works with athletes and everyday individuals to optimize performance, energy, and overall health through smarter fueling strategies, all of which starts at maptrition.com. At the very least, we should all be taking daily multivitamins, and Greg has his formulated for exactly what a man or woman's body needs. Protein is in, but maybe instead of getting yours from mac and cheese with extra protein, you get it from maptrition.com. And of course, all things workout, training, and exercise are available as well. From pre-workout to creatine and other muscle builders to recovery supplements and more, all at maptrition.com. From morning breakfast essentials to post-workout recovery and everything in between, maptrition.com's full range of supplements, proteins, and wellness products are built to power your journey from start to finish. Check out all the products and find what's right for you and order it shipped to you all at maptrition.com. That's maptrition.com.
Steve has been running sports books for decades, and Rob spent decades running radio so far into the ground he just created his own network. This is the Rob and Steve Sports Show on the Rad Network.
We'll dive deep into baseball here in just a few moments. Right now, the Reds are up 5-4 over the Cardinals, top of the 7th. Guardians up 3-2. They just took care of the Giants as they moved to the top of the 6th. So I guess reverse that. Giants took care of the Guardians. Blue Jays are up 3-1 on the bottom of the 5th. A's just started, and hey, they're already losing 1-0. That's different. They usually like to go up, say, I don't know, 5-2 heading into the 8th inning, and then give up 7 runs and lose 9-5. For example, that might have just happened last night. We'll get to baseball in a moment, but that at stake over the Los Angeles Lakers, we don't know. This fight that's happening to the Buss family stake in the Los Angeles Lakers has begun. Mark Walter is the primary partial owner of the Dodgers and the Lakers. He sold off his stake in the Lakers. He's being investigated. Everybody swears up and down it won't affect the Dodgers, but there's more and more rumors out there that we'll get to in a moment. Here's how this works with the Busses. They own just under 18% of the team, 17.8%. There are 6 siblings. They sold their majority share to Walter in a deal back in 2025, and just a year later, he's now selling to Bob Iger and Josh Kushner, to L.A. buddies, Jared Kushner, the brother or the son-in-law of President Trump, his brother. 5 of the 6 Buss siblings voted to sell their remaining portion to Iger and Kushner at the $12.5 billion franchise valuation. That's where it gets a little dicey. People are like, well, who got the $12.5 billion? Well, they agreed it on a sales price, $12.5 billion, and then that means each share that you own is valued at how much versus the total shares, which make up the $12.5 billion. And so the Buss family said, well, we'll sell them at the same valuation. And Jeannie said, well, I won't. And they said, well, there's 5 of us and there's 1 of you. And Jeannie's lawyer said, yes, but there was already a court decision back in 2017 that said everybody needs to turn their keys on the submarine. You want to fire the nuclear sub, then Jeannie, Janie, and Joey all need to approve. They're the co-trustees, and Jeannie didn't. So Jeannie says, I'm not selling. We don't have to. We don't know where that's headed. We do know there's one other minority owner, Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong, who owns 4% of the team, is good buddies with Kushner and Iger, and says he won't be selling. There's that going on with the Lakers, Steve, and then there are a bunch of unsubstantiated, unconfirmed, but sometimes double-sourced rumors about your spidey senses in the very beginning, and others were, wait a minute, are the Lakers the beginning, not the end? Is he getting rid of the Lakers so he can focus on the CTC, ESE, CAT&T, FBI, NCA, AA investigations? Or is he in real trouble? And this is the tip of the iceberg. Shohei came out and said, doesn't matter if he does sell, I'm staying with the Dodgers. Like you said yesterday, what else is he going to say? The Dodgers are wobbly. We talked yesterday. Is this starting to seep into players' minds? And we're hearing more and more. Is this a lot bigger deal than we think?
For me, I don't think it's a lot bigger deal than what I thought, because I felt from the get-go this was going to turn into something big. I think the way it was released early on was like, hey, yeah, this is what's going on. It's not that big of a deal. But he's been getting investigated. I've heard, and I can't prove any of them, but, you hear the talk, you see the different things. One article I was reading says that he's basically shell companied like $20 billion. And that's where the sale of the Lakers had to come from, because he needed to, show that money back there. I've seen another story that I didn't know, but I guess he owns a soccer team, if it's true, that the soccer team is now currently up for sale. It just keeps getting uglier and uglier as, you peel the layers of that onion off. And I've been at the point where I didn't think he was going to make it through the Lakers. The Dodgers. Once he sold the Lakers, I firmly believe they're all going to come crumbling down one way or another, and he's going to end up selling all of it. Now, whether or not, it turns into, what do they say, like a Ponzi scheme that he's been running, because there's a lot of stuff of loaning money to his companies and loaning money, and that's where the problem is. He owns the 2 insurance companies. And lately I've been hearing the story of he owns, and again, can't tell you if it's true or not, but he owns the TV deal and the rights to the Dodgers TV revenue. Well, they signed a 25-year contract in whatever year it was, but he's getting paid out and supposedly front loaded. So he's taking money out of that 25-year deal now, which again gives the appearance from everything you read of he's just, look, I'm going to withdraw from the bank to pay off my credit card. I'm going to take another credit card and I'm going to charge it up so I can take this money and put it back in the bank so I can pay a bill, just kind of shuffling money between all of his different companies around and around to pay the bills. And if that's what it turns into being, I don't see how he's going to survive. And speculation is all out there. For the good of baseball, honestly, I hope he stays. I love it when you have an owner who's all in and wants to invest, win championships, and isn't afraid to spend money. We need more of those with our owners. It's just if he's doing it shadily, I will say, then that's where if all of these accusations start coming to be true, then I do think he needs to go.
So his name is Mark Walter. He owns stakes in two prominent soccer clubs, England's Chelsea in the Premier League, and France's RC Strasbourg in League One. Although both he and his partner Todd Bowley have been in talks to sell their minority stakes back to the owners in both of those cases. So they are looking to get out of their soccer holdings. When this story first came along, it was one of those that made you turn your head and go, wow, so soon. And a lot of people went, well, hey, 25% on a return in your investment, which is extraordinary in a year. And at first I went, yeah, I mean, that's how a billionaire becomes a billionaire. But I mean, why did he really buy the team to make $2.5 billion over the course of like 14 months? And that's net. That's based on what he paid. What did he invest versus the sales? It didn't ring true to me. The thing that's really bugging me is this report, and that's all these are. These are reports of how in debt Walter might be for legal purposes. Because one of the numbers I heard had a B in front of it. You can't have $1 billion in legal bills. He's only worth $18 billion. So what's going on? His net worth is $18.3 billion. Net meaning you might own the LA Dodgers, which are worth 250 whatever billion, but your profit of it is what's on top of it. Hey, it ain't bad to be worth $18.5 billion net worth, but you can't have billions of dollars, and that would mean it is a Ponzi. We are in Mark Madoff or territory, or that kind of thing. I want him to stay because of what the Dodgers showed Major League Baseball in terms of how to run a team. If they're running it legally, like you said, that's the thing.
Right, and that's the question: is are they borrowing, from the left hand in order to pay the right hand, and that's where that part comes from. And I wasn't sure it was really a big deal because this story broke like a week or 2 weeks before the Lakers were sold. And so I've been following that going, okay, where's this really going to go? And I'm like, okay, chances are he can work this out and show his worth and be able to settle it up. When the Lakers sold, that was the day I'm like, okay, this is way bigger than I anticipated. And he really is in trouble. And when the Lakers sold, I figured it's a matter of time before everything else goes too. Because I don't think you do buy a team with the intention of, hey, look, it went up by 25%. As you said, it's now time to sell. It's not a stock. You don't buy the Lakers or the Dodgers as a stock. You buy them because that's the franchise. You want to own a sports franchise. You want to win championships. Not okay. When I sit down at a blackjack table, if I double my money, I get up and walk away. That's not ownership in a sports franchise.
And especially the way he did it, because let's take collective bargaining agreements out of it, et cetera. If Mark Walter, and remember, Mark Walter, he's part of a group. He's a CEO. He's a minority ownership. This could go a lot of ways. The other members of this marketing group, the Walter Group, whatever they're called, could come along and bail him out and say, we're just going to buy you out. Here's your money. Get out of our company. It's now our company kind of thing. So it could stay structure the same. But either way, that sales price, if they go to the Dodgers will have to factor in on the open market. We owe all of this money down the road. All of us that own businesses and sell stakes in businesses or sell companies have to, and I'm forgetting, it's trailing something or others. It's a in and out. Accounts receivable, accounts payable. It's trailing accounts payable. That's not the right term, but that's going to all be part of it. It's not like he gets to say, yeah. The Padres, they sold for $5 billion, so I think the Dodgers are worth $15 billion because they're the Dodgers. No, here's everything we owe. We owe all of these hundreds of millions of dollars to all of these players, so that's going to all be factored in if they go down that road as well in terms of the sales price as try to figure out what's the right thing for the Dodgers and for baseball. And I don't want to see the idea of the way the Dodgers have run the franchise go, and I also don't want to see this become the scapegoat. This is the Astros. Well, they only won because they cheated because he was lying. It's not quite that black and white yet.
And I'm curious with this whole thing is, does he own Dodgers prior had always owned Dodger Stadium. So when he bought the Dodgers, did he get Dodger Stadium? Because this is a big difference. He sold the Lakers, but the Lakers don't own the arena they play in. So he's just buying the franchise in itself. And Chavez Ravine, you're talking a mountain. They dug out the top and buried a baseball stadium in it. I don't know how far down Chavez Ravine he owns, but it's pretty much by itself up there. And you got to figure the land's got to be worth some money also, in addition to not just the team.
And that would be, that would be the sticky wicket of value there. And is there an agreement between, if the team doesn't own the majority, who's the agreement with to keep the team there? It's the Dodgers, man. This isn't. It sounds silly. This isn't like selling the Wizards. This is an extraordinary worldwide brand that there's so much into, and I think it would be better for everybody involved if they could find a way to keep either Walter or Walter's group in it, get out of this Lakers thing, and move along. And back to yesterday, bringing it back to the Lakers. Are you still where you were yesterday? This is Jeannie Buss saying, I still want the Buss family involved. Maybe it's ego. We don't know her that well. But she's standing up to saying, as you said yesterday, hey, holiday dinners haven't been real good for years because they fired all of you guys, but they kept me. And she just wants to hold on? Or is there something more altruistic here, like, my daddy built this and I'm not letting it go?
I think she just wants to hold on. And both of those kind of go hand in hand. My daddy built this and I don't want to let go. And I want to run the Lakers. I want to be associated with the Lakers. This is our family legacy, et cetera, et cetera. The part I get to, same thing I said to Mark Cuban. Why'd you sell? Why did you sell? Because she felt they could get all their money and have their cake too, that she could still be the governor. She could still oversee the Lakers. She could still live the life that she wants to live as far as that association with the Lakers and get all of her money out of the franchise. And I think, and the family hasn't gotten along in quite a while, but because I believe 4 of the children had jobs with the Lakers, and she secured hers for 5 years as the governor. But then shortly after that, all the other kids got fired from their jobs. Well, that's going to leave a bad taste there too. Why do you keep yours? And that appears to be the only thing that she's concerned about. It ain't about family. It ain't about anything else. She wanted the money, but she wants the title, and she is holding on to that title with both hands as tight as she can. And if I'm Iger and Kushner, I'm just saying, look, we're not going to honor it. You're done. So you can either sell us that or you can be a silent minority owner.
And the Iger Kushner group, they have no stake in whatever this judge said back in 2017. That can be a whole, hey, work that out with the family thing.
Yeah.
If the judge says we have to honor it, then we have to honor it. But they've also laid down the marker at that point of, it's not going to be a friend. It's going to be a Mark Cuban thing. It's not going to be a friendly thing if they do that. Just for the record, prior to the sale to Walter, there were 4 total Buss family members working for the team. Jeannie is governor, and then the 3 that were fired: Janie, who was the youth founded administrator; the Joey, who was the alternate governor and vice president of R&D; and Jesse, who was the assistant general manager. They were fired. Jeannie kept her job. That was way back when they sold, in 24, 25, when Walter bought the team. Also in the NBA, James Harden has agreed to a new 3-year, $97 million contract to go back to the Cavaliers. Harden will now reach the $511 million mark in terms of career earnings. Fourth player in NBA history to eclipse $500 million. This is just what you made as a basketball player. LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry. No, Michael Jordan's not going to be there. Inflation, different money, etc. But the guys that have made $500 million or more, LeBron, Durant, Curry, and now James Harden. Which of these do not look like the others?
Who doesn't have the ring?
Bingo. That would be the difference. And Harden, Cavaliers in the East. Steve, you had the Cavaliers. We both had the Cavaliers being better than they were going to be or wound up being in the regular season, the most boring regular season in the history of the NBA. But they pushed through those playoffs. We don't mention the Cavaliers, Steve, and we're doing power rankings in the East. We're mentioning the Sixers and the Knicks and the Celtics. We're not the Cavs. I mean, we even mention the Pacers more often of, hey, they're going to be back. Cavs, Harden, are they clinging here or they got one last gasp?
I think they're going to be a good team. Where you're not hearing it from me is because I had high expectations for them last year. I thought this was the best team going into the season with the Celtics injuries and how they had to turn over their roster out of the East. I thought they would be in the championship game. They disappointed the entire season, were inconsistent. I don't think this team's really better than what they were last year. So, is Atkinson going to be able to turn them around? You look at it and the trade they've signed Harden, so we know he's coming back, but we knew he was coming back. They traded Max Struss yesterday for Peyton Watson. Did a couple of things, and I thought it was a good trade for the Cavs. One, it lets them get a young player who, if last year was not a fluke, because his first couple of years he struggled a bit to get the playing time and produce, but if last year was not a fluke, it's a good young player starting to roll up into being a really good player in the NBA who could move into more of that all-star type of player to fit in that. But it also took him out of the second apron. And that's the reason it had to be a sign and trade, because now they get that salary penalty relief. Denver, to my knowledge, is the only team still on that second apron, which is why they couldn't really re-sign Peyton Watson for a whole bunch of money that he wanted. But I don't like the Cavs' depth. I just don't think it's there. Starting lineup. I mean, you're looking at like Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Peyton Watson, Donovan Mitchell, James Harden. But that last one's the other key, James Harden. I've watched him in the playoffs fold too many times that even if they are a quality team, I think he's a big liability on defense. And come playoff time, I think he's more of a hindrance than a benefit for this Cavs team. And you just go into the bench, and the bench doesn't have that depth that they've had in prior years. And so they're a good team. Do I feel that they are one of the top three? No. They're probably in that 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 range. So they should make the playoffs. I just don't think they're elite.
As constructed, if they make the playoffs, are they built, though, to make a run? I mean, the NBA has become similar to the MLB just in terms of the comparisons that take so much out of it. It's one thing to get there because you got these pick'em games and more than half the league is in there, et cetera. But there's a lot of these teams we look at and go, well, they're not going anywhere. Well, they might, okay, the Rockets, they might make a, never mind. Well, the Hawks, they might, where are the Cavs like, they're going to go deep or not really?
They could. I kind of put them with the Miami Heat, and they brought in Giannis, and you look at that team going, wow, okay, what can they do with Bam Adebayo, Giannis, Andrew Wiggins, Bobby Portis coming off the bench, Tim Hardaway Jr. But do I think they're that championship team? No, I don't think the Cavs are the championship team.
Well, see, now wait, before you go on, you brought this up, and I think it was right around when LeBron made his "I'm going to take my talents to Philadelphia" decision. The Heat were the it team. They got Giannis. Ooh, who's going to go there? And then everybody just stopped. Was it because what you're saying that everybody recognized you needed another piece and you don't got it?
They need guards. I mean, you look at it, they got Davian Mitchell. I mean, Tim Hardaway Jr. They don't have that. They're very size under the rim inside, but they don't have the perimeter game, which is the NBA more than most anything in the NBA. You need the perimeter game, and they just don't have it. Even, when they're talking about Giannis going, oh, that'll make them the favorite. I don't think I even put them in like the top 4 out of the East, even getting Giannis. So I've never been on that train. But the Knicks are really good. I think the Sixers, again, talent-wise, this Sixers team is off the charts, but can they coexist? And that's the chaos that I love. I mean, Toronto's a pretty good team. We now know, for the most part, Kawhi, because they're not going to do anything. Kawhi is going to be with the Raptors. You got the Pacers, who are quietly sneaking up there. There's a team 2 years ago, before Halliburton got injured, was, pushed the Thunder to game 7 in the championship series. And, Halliburton's back. They've picked up Zubac with the trade. They have him there. So Detroit was the number 1 team. We're not even, I think I got Detroit like 6th or 7th out of the East. I love the East in the sense of, I think there's a lot of good teams. I think there's only 2 teams that I would put in towards that elite out of the East. The rest are really good.
Only 2 that are elite, and right away people have Knicks, Celtics, Sixers in their mind. So who's not of those 3 elite?
I don't have the Celtics there. I have the Celtics probably at 3rd, but I think it's a step down. And Mitchell Robinson, they brought him in. He's had injury concerns. How healthy is Paul George going to be? You roll me back Paul George from 6 years ago, and I'm like, yeah, the Celtics are elite. Paul George hasn't been a factor in the NBA really in the last 3-4 seasons due to injuries and everything else. I like Derek White, Jason Tatum, but I like Pritchard. They have some good players, but I don't think they're elite.
All right, let's have some fun here, just real quick. On paper, as constituted right now, would that mean then that the Celtics are 3rd best in the East?
I would probably put the Celtics at 3rd best in the East right now.
Now, I'm assuming, just from conversations and things we've agreed on, in the West, it's still the Spurs and OKC, and there's a big drop off.
It is the Spurs, OKC, and there's a drop off. It's probably a big drop off because those are arguably the 2 best teams in the NBA. So there is a big drop off. But I'm the Clippers are a team that I've been like, this team's going nowhere. And I'll tell you, the Clippers go like 10 strong. And I'm not saying that they're going to compete, but they're going to be better. I'm still waiting. Fred VanVleet was out last year, the true point guard for the Rockets. He's going to be back this year. Can he stay healthy? Can he do what we thought? We know the Mavericks are going to be a better team than they were last year. The Jazz, I think, are going to be a surprise. Not that they're going to win it, but the team I think takes a step back is I'm not impressed with Denver. Denver's got a really good starting 5. And then what do they have from there? I mean, you're talking Strother, you're talking Bagley Jr., Tyus Jones. I don't see anything,
Minnesota?
coming off. No, Denver.
No, but what about
Minnesota? I don't think Minnesota has the bench either.
Right.
And I like to get Anthony Edwards off the ball. Look, let Melo handle the ball. Get Anthony Edwards, because he's already voiced he hates the double teams. We'll allow him to go find his space, create the space to catch and shoot, and not have to handle the ball to get the double teams. I like that.
So there really is quite a drop between OKC and the Spurs, because we got a ton of teams that are bunched up there. So my question was going to be, on paper, going in, right now, who cares, August, is the 3rd best team in the West better than the Celtics?
The 3rd best team in the West better than the Celtics? I would probably say no. I would go Thunder, Spurs, Sixers, Knicks, Celtics.
TV is how we consume. There's been so much TV news. Tony Romo, will he be back? Will he be back, etc. The ongoing negotiations at ESPN with losing people, signing people, they are still in discussions with Pat McAfee to ultimately land somewhere around 60 to 70 million dollars a year to not only continue hosting the Pat McAfee show, but remember, part of that deal is that he pays everybody on the Pat McAfee show to keep that running. Oh, but we pay Pat McAfee to do all these other things, like he shows up on college football, etc. And he's been handed another promotion. How this ties into the ongoing negotiations, or is this just we're going to ride this pony dry or bloody, or however you're going to put it? We don't know exactly, but Pat McAfee will now be expanding his role. Is he getting too much like Jason Kelsey? Are we seeing too much of Pat McAfee, or is this just right? He's going to be part of the NFL Monday Night Countdown team. He will join the network's weekly pregame show before Monday Night Football. Jason McCourty's coming over as well. So your Monday night team will be Jason Kelsey, Marcus Spears, Scott Van Pelt is with the host, with Pat McAfee and Jason McCourty. Of course, Pat McAfee's already part of College Game Day every Saturday morning, and he's got the Pat McAfee show, etc. It is part of ESPN doubling down on its massive push of their biggest personalities like McAfee, Stephen A. Smith, etc. Initial reaction, as you would expect, it is too much McAfee. We don't need this much more. Whatever, people are gonna say that. He doesn't quite yet. I get the comparison to Jason Kelsey. I guess I can tolerate more McAfee. I don't know why. Maybe he seems more educated, not in an intelligent way, but more like I can speak more broadly on all sports kind of thing. I don't know. He doesn't grind my gears as quickly as Jason Kelsey does.
I like Pat McAfee. I like his show. I think he does a wonderful job. I am not sold that Pat McAfee should be out of the studio on anything other than his show. And I know with the amount of money they want to put him there, I don't care for him in the college football. I've not cared for him in any of those things. I think Jason Kelsey adds to the sideline just because of his personality. I just don't get that same feeling with Pat McAfee. Leave what he does. I'm not arguing the amount of money he makes for his show. He does a wonderful show, great guests. I think it flows with everything. I wouldn't pull him out of that show. I don't care for him in anything else in a studio or any of that. I believe he's out of his element in those situations.
I think I figured it out. And you made a reference yesterday. Like usual, you got to put people in their right element. Tom Brady would be better in a studio than a booth. He's proven that. Jason Kelsey is perfect. He can do the studio thing, but like you said, put him out in the parking lot, put him in the tailgating, put him with the fans. Boy, is he an every man's man. McAfee is not good at taking second seat. And that's the thing that gets me about McAfee. When you put him on College Game Day and now you're going to put him on Monday night, I don't think he's trying intellectually to do it. He's not a broadcaster. He's a very intelligent, well-spoken guy who's made a hell of a career for himself after being a punter of all things. I don't think he's intentionally going to be saying, I got to take Scott Van Pelt's job from him. I think it's just in him. I think he's a type A alpha. I'm here and I got to control the room because that's just who I am. And that, I think, is what McAfee belongs, yes, in that environment, whether it's only his show or give him another outlet where he gets to do that. You're right. That would make more sense.
Yeah, and I think you summed up what I was trying to say really simple. He's the alpha. He's got to control it. He's got to run it. His show, let him do it, and he does a great job of getting other people involved and moving forward. But it just is forced when he goes on the sidelines of those things because you only get like 20% of the airtime, and that's not him. He wants to do and say what he wants to do and say when he wants to do it, and it's not a controlled environment.
No, and those of us that are used to being the primary host, that whether it's again by ego or talent or experience or habit, we're long-winded. Because another guy that doesn't do well in this is Colin Cowherd. Colin Cowherd's a very smart, intelligent sports guy. He does not belong sitting on the sofas and trying to just do quick hits either, because he wants to long form it and come up with these premises like I do. And here, wait until I get my whole point out there. And everybody on the set's like, we got to go to break in 90 seconds, dude. You got to wrap it up.
And see both of those examples, because Colin Cowherd as well. Love his show, watch it, great guest. He's a guy I want to go out to a bar with, go out to dinner with, something to just sit back, listen to the stories, his connections, they know everyone, and just sit back, relax, and just listen. But that's not what happens in those situations.
Right, and it's got to be with Colin Cowherd. It's got to be like the two of you and maybe one other person. We don't need anybody else, right? Because then all the egos are exploded. Don't put Colin Cowherd and Pat McAfee at the same table.
No.
Oh my God! Oh no!
Rob and Steve continue next, only on the radnetwork.com.
The first time Corey walked into my home, I came around the corner, extended my right hand to shake it, and said to him, "Wow, you're big." And that would be Corey from QuickDumpsters.com. Quick is spelled wrong intentionally. Quick, Q-U-I-K Dumpsters.com. That's QuickDumpsters.com. Corey's yet another maggot launching his own locally owned and operated business, and boy, did I need him, and really we all do. Things pile up, you get frustrated, you keep saying, "We need to make a dump run." Pretty soon it's more than a dump run, and now you need to rent a truck or have one of those ugly upside down box cars parked in front of your house that you fill up yourself. Or you do like I did, you call Corey at QuickDumpsters.com. In my case, my house had fallen into complete disarray as my late wife Christina had lost her 2-year battle with congestive heart failure, and amongst the many things left were gathering her things and finding what to donate, what had to just go in that pile of stuff where we were both going, why did we ever buy this? And it all could have been so overwhelming had Corey not just walked in, taken charge, and removed dozens of boxes of total junk, unusable dog kennels, desks that were falling apart, a worthless old smoker that couldn't be fixed, bag after bag of crap, and I can't remember what else. He was quick, spelled wrong, Q-U-I-K, quiet and clean. Well, he wasn't clean. I mean, he was. But I'm not commenting on his hygiene. I meant that his work was clean. He swept everything when he was done, and the house looked like he'd never even been there. Corey's the real deal, and I couldn't be more proud and happy to call him a brand new advertiser. His story's incredible, his dedication unmatched, and his motivation to succeed larger than he is, and that's saying something. Quotes are free. You don't even have to have them over to your house. Just send him some pics or videos, and you'll get your price, schedule your day and time, and watch someone else get that junk out of your house. Go to QuickDumpsters.com. Quick, Q-U-I-K, Dumpsters.com. Quick, Q-U-I-K, Dumpsters.com. Longtime maggots will remember Greg from MAP, M-A-P, as in Maximum Athletic Performance, which guides you to better output through better ingredients, also known as nutrition. Greg has been on the Rad Show many times and will be again, as he simplifies nutrition and helps us all understand what actually works when it comes to fueling our bodies, almost all of which can be found at maptrition.com. Every product is formulated with clinical precision and backed by science and purpose, and maptrition.com has something for every fitness level, even those of us who barely have a fitness level. With nearly 20 years as a nutritionist and a specialization in sports nutrition, Greg works with athletes and everyday individuals to optimize performance, energy, and overall health through smarter fueling strategies, all of which starts at maptrition.com. At the very least, we should all be taking daily multivitamins, and Greg has his formulated for exactly what a man or woman's body needs. Protein is in, but maybe instead of getting yours from mac and cheese with extra protein, you get it from maptrition.com. And of course, all things workout, training, and exercise are available as well. From pre-workout to creatine and other muscle builders to recovery supplements and more, all at maptrition.com. From morning breakfast essentials to post-workout recovery and everything in between, maptrition.com's full range of supplements, proteins, and wellness products are built to power your journey from start to finish. Check out all the products and find what's right for you and order it shipped to you all at maptrition.com. That's maptrition.com.
At the Rob and Steve Sports Show, we only support responsible sports betting and gambling. With that said, according to Rob's favorite Chinese restaurant, your lucky numbers today are 12, 14, 17, 20, 28, and 36. Good luck. Email us your results at ras@theradnetwork.com.
Half a dozen games in Major League Baseball with the Reds up 5-4 over the Cardinals in the ninth. Guardians over the Giants 4-2 in the seventh. Blue Jays are beating the Rays 5-1 in the seventh. A's just started. They're down 1-0. Brewers are up 6-2 over the Mariners. We'll get to them. And the Braves are beating the White Sox 1-0. There's some good games and some good matchups to talk about, Steve. One other thing before we get to baseball, Joe Burrow did it again. We were just talking about this article. It says, what teams are going to outperform their expectations? Well, whose expectations? Because Joe Burrow himself already said, we have everything we need. And then his coach came out and said, we have everything we need. And now today, Joe Burrow has made things even more explicit during his post-training camp press conference that was just completed after the Bengals joint practice with the Bears. When asked if he's treating this season as a now or never season, Joe Burrow says, quote, that's how I'm treating it. It's now or never. Why, end quote. Why is Burrow so comfortable talking about having championship aspirations in mid-August? He says, quote, I'm trying to put it out into the world. I'm trying to manifest itself. I'm trying to show our guys the urgency and that I have and that I want us to have as an organization. Keep pushing, blah, blah, blah. You can't keep saying next year. So anyways, he's tripled down now. Where, great, but I mean, he's really put himself out there. This is it. If it's January and the Bengals aren't in the postseason or have gone one and done, there's a lot of people who rightfully are going to say, if everybody stayed healthy, what was he talking about?
And I wouldn't, well, I mean, I would want to be the head coach of the Bengals, but it's this year, or he's going to be out of a job if they go and they fail again. Joe Burrow needs to have success. He needs to stay healthy. We all talk about how he's one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, but can he stay healthy consistently through a course of an NFL season? The Bengals still have some holes. They lost, I believe it was a defensive lineman or an edge rusher already this season. So they need to protect him. We watched the very first, spring training game and the preseason game. And one of the main highlights, not like any other team, it was like, here you go, Bengals first highlight, Joe Burrow 9-yard sack. It's the same thing we've watched year in and year out. So he's got to produce. The Bengals got to produce. Or I think there needs to start being some changes in that organization.
As we head back to Major League Baseball, the Orioles and Yankees will go at it again tonight, but people are still talking about last night, and I've brought this up. This has been the one thing it seems to be with technology with baseball, which I think has been an overwhelmingly win for the league this year, has been instant replay when it specifically has to do with foul balls and foul home runs. The Orioles felt aggrieved last night against the Yankees after Pete Alonso's deep fly to left in the seventh was ruled foul, and the call was upheld on a review. The play occurred with the score tied at 3. Yankees, of course, score twice in the top of the 8th. They go on to win 5-3, so angry fans can go, that's what cost it the game. Manager Craig Albernaz said after the game on the dugout, iPads, there's ball tracking data with the field that the players see. It's really tough to have that call come back as it stands and have that visual in the dugout as well, especially when it's 2026. Teams are using AI on the iPads, and other sports use ball tracking data for challengeable calls. One replay, end quote, one replay did seem to show the ball on the fair side of the pole, but it wasn't clear what angle that shot was from. This is what I remember seeing. The A's were involved in 2 of these this year, and no matter what angle you showed it from, you couldn't tell. Is the ball looping around the foul pole, or did it already go outside of the foul pole? Because they didn't have a camera, as I think it was Dallas Braden, the A's announcer, said, why isn't there a camera on top of the foul pole looking down? Which wouldn't have helped last night because Alonso's home run was so high, that camera wouldn't have helped. Said Chris Bassett, the Baltimore starting pitcher, quote, we don't have technology in place to actually say, hey, this was fair or this is foul and it's 2026. This is crazy. He then took a shot and said, it's obviously money. I mean, that's literally it, end quote. All right. So Chris Bassett decided to say baseball's not willing to spend the money to get the cameras. I don't know if that's true. I've seen the play. I didn't see it in real time. These things are frustrating when baseball does such a good job at everything else. I know this morning Mike Greenberg on Get Up on ESPN was saying this is a win for me. He's a big tech guy, big technology guy. He said this is a win. Technology worked out. We did it right. Did they?
They didn't do it right. They need to add the technology. I've been singing this song for so long now. And one of the things I'm also hoping to get out of the ABS system, because we had the pushback from the umpires early on. There hasn't been any pushback from the umpires since about week 3 of the season. I think they've grown to accept it. I'm hoping that Major League Baseball, the NFL, and all the other major sports realize if we have the technology, use it. And that's been my argument. If we invented the sport today, wouldn't we be using the technology we have today? We wouldn't go back and say, no, it's got to be how we played the game in 1850 if we had invented the game in 1850 before cars, airplanes, and everything else. To not know if a ball's fair or foul, over the foul pole, around the foul pole, over the bag, down the line, I don't buy it. I believe the technology's there. I think that, and it wouldn't surprise me if they have videos somewhere, because we're finding out that they've had chips in the footballs and all that. They know if it's a first down or not before they even bring the chain gang out there. And then what do they do then? Oh, yeah, it really was a first down. Look, they screwed that one up, but we can't let the cat out of the bag, so we just got to swallow it and let it. Use the technology. I'm hoping with the A's parts this last night, I'm hoping that they expand it out during the offseason, and it's collective bargaining time. It's time to use it now and negotiate that into the league agreement with the players and the league owners and expand it as much as you can.
So that was the Orioles and Yankees. I mentioned they're going to go at it again today. You got that whole American League East. The Tampa Bay Rays beat the Blue Jays 7-6 last night. We're going to start first with Baltimore today. In about 3 hours, they will host the Yankees again. Garrett Cole is going against Kyle Bradish this afternoon.
Yeah, Yankees riding a 3-game winning streak. Orioles riding a 3-game losing streak. It's a pretty good pitching matchup. Garrett Cole's turning back into that pitcher that we've all known on the season. His whip is sitting at 1.08. But a big thing for him, lefties this year only hitting 205, a whip of 1.01. But in his last 7 games, that's what counts, 2.45 ERA, whip at 0.98. And in every start he has had in July and August, so we're talking like 8 starts, he has not allowed more than 3 runs in any outings. His game is he goes 6 innings, 2 runs. And to add to that, in August, opponents are hitting 217 against him, a whip of 107. Garrett Cole's throwing the ball great. Bradish, on the other hand, home games this year, and this is a home game. This is one you got to look at. He's only given up a batting average to opponents at 188. His whip is 1.16. To put that as a comparison, for the season, Bradish's whip is 1.36. So playing at home, he has been much better this year. And in July, he was good. His whip was 104, but he has fallen back on tougher times. In August, opponents are hitting 259. His whip is 133. But again, his big magic marker there is a day game. At home. They're at home against the Yankees, and that's why this game is sitting close to pick 'em.
So you've got the Yankees are at Baltimore right now. The Yankees are 5 games back in the American League East. The Orioles are in last place, 15.5 back, but the Orioles are only a game and a half back of that American League wild card game, although they would have to go through the Hawardians, the Blue Jays, the Rangers, and now today the Twins are your American League wild card. And so today and this weekend, the American League East is going to beat up on itself as well. So we just did the Yankees are at Baltimore today. So as we speak, Tampa Bay is hosting Toronto. They are losing in the top of the 8th. The Blue Jays are up 5-1. Tomorrow, Tampa Bay will go play Baltimore, and the Blue Jays will go play the Yankees. And the whole time, your Boston Red Sox are going to be sitting at home and starting tomorrow, dealing with the San Francisco Giants all weekend. So advantage Red Sox as the rest of the East beats itself up. Maybe not advantage, but the Red Sox are the ones that can, outside of their division, if they do lose, not have as much damage done where it's a 2-game loss losing to your division. Plus, you're not playing a great Giants team.
No, not playing a great Giants team at all. They're just figuring out the season. They're bringing up a lot of good kids. They got Landon Roop going today. They're getting beat right now 4-2. This is an opportunity for the Red Sox to have a big weekend series, win at home, get that record above 500, and really outside of Logan Webb, no one in that Giants rotation really scares me very much. And hopefully, but I did watch the A's play the Red Sox tough, so it's a spot for the Red Sox to gain a little ground.
Red Sox not playing today. They're home waiting for the Giants, who, by the way, will throw Logan Webb tomorrow. We'll talk about that when it is tomorrow time. Cade Cavalli followed up a near no-hitter with another double-figure strikeout for the Washington Nationals, who are out of everything. His first 8 outs on strikeouts Wednesday night, 10 Ks in the 4th inning, finished with 11 over 6 innings. The Nationals won 6-0 over those Texas Rangers, which takes us to the AFC South, the American League West. The NFC South. AFC South. NFC South. I'm screwing myself up. It's the NFC South, right? The Saints, the Buccaneers. Jesus. All right. Rangers, 2 games back of the Astros. Mariners, 4 games back. Astros are in first place. As we reported yesterday, as of noon 20, it is supposed to be official that when the Rangers take the mound against the Nationals this afternoon, Jacob deGrom set for another chance to become the second fastest pitcher to 2,000 career strikeouts. He is scheduled to start a week after pitching only 2 innings in his previous game because of triceps fatigue. He's got 1,998 strikeouts, trying to become the 9th active player and 94th all-time to reach the milestone. More importantly, as you said, Steve, if deGrom, he had that 2-inning weirdness last week. If they're rushing him back, if there's something more, if he goes down, you say lights out. I don't care. The Rangers are only 2 games back. They got to have deGrom. I assume that means we got to see at least a decent outing. What makes us all think a non-injury outing from him today?
And they need it. I mean, they lost yesterday, shut out by Cavalli, who's the one pitcher on this Nationals team that has, is really good. Andrew Alvarez goes for the Nationals today. He's a innings eater, mediocre pitcher. Whip sits right around 1.3, ERA just under 4. But with Alvarez in his last 3 outings, he's only given up 8 hits in his last 17 1/3 innings. His whip over the span in August is 0.75. He's throwing the ball really well right now. The question is will he come down to earth? But Jacob deGrom, he's been really good at home. His whip at home is 0.98. His batting average against 205. But deGrom hasn't been good. I mean, he had 3 starts in July. He gave up 19 hits, 8 runs in 14 2/3 innings. Opponents hit 306 average against him at a 1.57 whip. And then you roll into August. So far in August, giving up 8 runs, 16 hits, and only 10 1/3. He hasn't been good since June. Right now, opponents are hitting 356 off of him in August. His whip is 2.23. There is something wrong with him. I know he wants his, 2 more Ks for the 1,000th or whatever it is, but he has not been right in a while, and the Rangers are going nowhere without him being healthy, especially, as I said yesterday, with Nathan Eovaldi going on the IL. They need both of them to be at top form if they're going to go into the playoffs.
Wait a minute. Did I misunderstand? Isn't whip the number of base runners allowed per innings, basically?
Yes, it's walks plus hits divided by innings pitched. So in August, he's given up 16 hits and 7 walks in 10 1/3 innings.
And that's a whip of 2.27 or 8.
No,
isn't that what you said?
I got him at 2.23.
Yeah. Okay. That's extraordinary. That's awful.
Yeah.
You can't pitch like that.
That's what I'm saying.
That's why when you explained to me what whip was, I went, now that's a stat I can get
Mhm.
behind. If you're telling me every damn inning I've got 2.25 runners on, that is, you can't live like that as a pitcher.
So
Wow.
far for the entire month, it's not like, look, he had one game. He went 3 1/3, gave up 7 hits, 5 runs. The game at home against Baltimore, and he has pitched much better at home. 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 run. But then his last one at the Angels, 2 innings, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, and a walk. You can't win games putting that many base runners on base.
We'll stay with the American League worst. The only team above 500 is a game above 500. The Astros, with their 2-game lead, will stay at home tonight. They're going to play the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, who are throwing Grayson Rodriguez at Peter Lambert.
Yeah, and right now the Astros gotta win. You can't be losing to the Angels. Grayson Rodriguez season ERA is over 7. His WHIP is sitting at almost 1.6, and the Astros are going to throw lefties at him. I mean, and that falls into Yordan Alvarez. Lefties this year are hitting him at a 318 average, a 1.92 WHIP. In his last 3 outings, his last 2 outings, he has averaged 4 runs an outing, 4 innings an outing, going 4 each game, giving up 3 earned runs in each outing. He has not been good. And that's against Miami and Kansas City, both very light hitting teams. Peter Lambert, he's been the one quality starter with this Astros team all year. At home this year, he's 5-4. His batting average against is 199. His WHIP is 1.07. And this is the consistency. This is the opposite of Jacob deGrom, what he's done. In July, opponents hit 204 against him. His WHIP was 105. So far in August, opponents are hitting 214 off of him. His WHIP is 1.21. He's gone at least 5 innings in his last 8 starts, and he has not allowed more than 2 earned runs in any of those innings. That's the starter you want going out there. Quality starts every time out. And Pete Lambert, nobody really knows who he is, but he's having a solid season for the Astros, which is why the Astros are where they're at.
And that's where I wonder where we're going to be at on, say, Monday. So the Astros have the 2-game lead over Texas. Who knows what they're going to get out of DeGrom today? I don't know what the hell the Mariners are doing, losing 22-0 the other day, and then they got to deal with the Brewers today. And then if you look long term, over the weekend, who's in the best position? Well, we know it's not Seattle. They got to take care of Milwaukee today. Then they got to go home and they deal with the Cubs all weekend. The Astros are hosting the Angels, who are no longer the worst team in baseball. And depending on what happens today, tomorrow the Astros will wait for the worst team in baseball to show up. The A's will be in Houston all weekend. And the Rangers will continue to deal with, they've got Washington today, and then they've got the Angels all weekend. So the Mariners are the ones in the worst possible spot on paper, dealing with Milwaukee today and then Chicago all weekend. And I think you and I this week kind of sort of didn't really, but kind of threw out the Mariners. Like, how many chances do they get?
And to add in it, what George Kirby today throws for the Mariners, gives up 5 runs and only gets 1 out. And I don't know where he went from there. They're down 6-2.
Oh.
This guy on the season, 8-9, 3.89 ERA. But if you dig into the numbers, in away games, he's allowing the opponents to hit 318. His WHIP is 1.52. Day games, which is what this is, opponents are hitting 300 against him. His WHIP is 1.45. And you look at it. Game in Texas, the end of July, 4 innings, 7 runs. His last outing here on August 14th, 4 2/3 innings, 8 hits, 5 earned runs. You can't be this bad on the road, but this is part of what the Mariners do. That, what I gave you, is his last 2 outings on the road, day game. They're too inconsistent. He'd be great, like, woo, he's great at home, terrible on the road. Kirby fills it in, 5 runs in the first inning before he gets the second out.
So before we leave the American League West, it gives us an opportunity to look at the worst teams in Major League Baseball. We know that for the best team in Major League Baseball, it's a battle. The Brewers are currently, they have the best record by a game. Well, it's not even by a game; it's by percentage points over the Dodgers, and 2 games over the Rays because of games played. They're the only 3 teams over a 600 winning percentage. Best record, blah blah blah. We'll see. Worst record right now today. Congratulations to the Athletics. They have the worst team in all of baseball by a game over the Rockies and the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, and then come the Giants and the Royals. Those are your 5 worst teams. And the Giants, they have a good 4.5 game lead or deficit behind the A's to be the worst, as they all head into their weekend series. That we know that the Angels are dealing with the Astros, and then they have to deal with the Rangers. The A's have to deal with the Astros all weekend after they deal with Kansas City today. Do you have a feel, Steve? Because to me, it's always the Rockies. They're like the gold standard, the gold template. But I can't say that I would argue, oh, they're going to be the worst team. I mean, the A's are sure making a run for it with 0 bullpen. Like the best worst team with starting pitching lately. The Angels, they're always terrible. Some of them are going to battle each other out. I still land on Rockies or Angels, but I wouldn't be surprised with any of these 5.
Yeah, I still just from feel fall on the Rockies and the Angels. Rockies haven't been good for a while now. The Angels just can't get out of their own way. Sorry to add to your A's news, but Jacob Wilson just went on the IL and he is going to be out for the season. So you will not see him play again this year. But they have some bright spots. I mean, Gage Jump is going today. They're down 3-0. He gave up a homer in the first inning to Bobby Witt. But some bright spots for Gage Jump. I mean, away games, he's been good. He's out of that ballpark. His whip on the season is 1.18. He's allowing opponents to hit at a 222 clip against him. And in August, this guy's opponent's batting average is 220. And his last couple outings, he went 6 innings against the Red Sox, gave up 2. His last outing out against Texas went 5 1/3, only gave up 3. But the thing I really cling to with Gage Jump is his home runs. He's playing in a hitter haven in Sacramento, and home runs are the flavor of the last several years in Major League Baseball. He's not giving up a whole lot of home runs. So he's found a way, even in Sacramento, to not get taken deep. And he's a bright spot. Him and JT Ginn are really your only bright spots out of that starting rotation. You got a lot of talent in the offense, which is where I can't quite put them in the bottom, even though Jacob Wilson is out. And KC, they have their moments. I think they've won 4 in a row right now. They got Dobnik on the mound. He's throwing a shutout, and the A's through, what is it? I don't even know how many innings they've gone.
In the fourth.
Okay, in the 4th. He hasn't been good really at all, but his last outing out, 5 2/3, didn't allow a run. He's building on that one right here as well. And Bobby Witt and Paglianoni, the Royals have some good players, so I can't put them down in the bottom. I can't give you a whole lot outside of Reed Detmers and Neto at shortstop with the Angels and the Rockies. They got some good young kids coming up, but you also wonder, Hunter Goodman now is out. He's been placed on the IL. He's their catcher that's sitting right around 30 homers. We're not seeing him anymore, and there's nothing in that rotation. Sagano's getting wins, but he's still been really bad looking at the rest of his numbers.
And we've documented to the nth degree the wild card in a bad way through this is the Giants, because they unloaded some at the All-Star break, but they have got some really deep baggage in terms of, okay, if you look at the Rockies, have some young good players. Okay, they're the Rockies. Angels, no bright spots. A's, lots of potential bright spots, reason to believe they might be something in a season or two. Royals, certainly in that category, probably ahead of the A's. Giants, we don't know. They've got some good young talent. Boy, are they albatrossed by not only the contracts, they've got these unknown people running the team from their manager to the president. They're the ones that, to me, of those 5, the worst team, because then there's many games difference between like the Giants. I think the Mets are the next one. They're the Giants are the ones of, I don't know. They could go the wrong way and really screw this up and be the worst team next season if there is one. Or Or, I don't know, they could because they got a lot of young talent.
They have some young talent. The problem I have is they have just the Devers contract, the Willie Adamas contract, and the Matt Chapman. Those are awful. You are spending so much money on those three players. You can't give them away. It's not like, hey, look, I'll set the keys to my car on top of the hood. Anybody who walks by can just have it. The pink slip will be sitting underneath it. Nobody will even take it. They don't even want these players for free due to that contract that comes with it. And that's the hard part for the Giants. And you were talking about the A's, and that's the whole time you're talking, I'm just sitting back going, opportunity for the A's by going into the trade deadline and go, well, we're not in it, so we're not going to do anything. They could have went out and got Soriano from the Angels. I mean, there were players that moved. Wouldn't Soriano on the A's, ground ball pitcher, look pretty good right now? And the Blue Jays didn't give up a whole lot to get him. But the A's GM went golfing or fishing or something. And to me, those are the little wasted opportunities. We know they need pitching. They could have went in the trade deadline and said, look, we'll take a couple of prospects. We'll move a couple of things here or there in order to get – you can't tell me they couldn't have moved one of these pitchers, one of these outfielders or even infielders for a guy with promise at single A or double A that their scouting department really liked and felt the kid's 19, 20 years old. One of these contending teams, look, we'll give them up now. We need that bench strength going into the playoffs and improved your lineup and your farm system. But they didn't even do that. It's like they didn't even try.
Well, and that's the thing is with all the things we don't know that are going on, well, we don't know the specifics of. A is supposed to move to Vegas in 28, collective bargaining agreement coming up. Don't know if there's going to be a season in 27. There was some sort of collective decision, collective meeting made. And this is a team, the A's, that locally anyways, they go out of their way to talk about all their young talent, all of the if you were to torture yourself and watch all of the A's coverage in the Northern California area, all their minor league teams players, all their prospects names. And yet they all sat in a room together and said, we'll just stand fast. We'll just keep all these kids. We won't improve it all. We won't trade any of them away to bring out some people that could that could actually be who's our jag-off pitching rotation. Luis Severino could actually be Severino, who he never turned out to be Severino. Let's bring in Soriano. And that decision, that commentary, that who made it and was the GM on the golf course when it was made while Fisher was in Vegas sipping a Mai Tai because everybody else's work. I don't know. They're not as unknown as the Giants, but they really did miss an opportunity for sure.
Yeah, and isn't their scouting, their player development really isn't any good? So it's like, well, we can't trade for a single A or a double A pitcher 19-20 because we don't have the scouting in order to even understand if there's any talent at these lower levels. I mean, I go back to the John Smoltz for Doyle Alexander trade with the Tigers and the Braves. The Braves, look, and they move, Doyle Alexander for John Smoltz, and Smoltz goes on a Hall of Fame career. Well, at the time, nobody knew who he was. In the A's, they got 7 outfielders. Not all 7 can play. As far as I can look at the diamond, you got a left fielder, a center fielder, a right fielder, and you might be able to DH. They have, White and Geloff at third. You got your best prospect at short. You got Jacob Wilson there. You still got, Corona Grier there. You got Jeff McNeil. You have so much position talent. They all can't play. Why are you holding on to Cortez? I like Cortez as a good outfielder. I may not want him to start every day, but that guy coming off the bench, a 4th outfielder, you couldn't even move him. And teams were desperate to find hitting and nothing. That's the part that's so frustrating.
That's the part that I want to know about the meeting, because they could have moved Cortez. They could have moved half a dozen outfielders and infielders and still had a team with what's constructed now. They made a decision not to. In terms of talent, the Oakland A's farm system is ranked as 14th overall. in terms of their rank, but that's based on the talent. And what Steve's referring to is if you don't have guys around the talent who are properly evaluating them, who can pick and figure out this is what we can do to make them better than having in the top half of the farm systems in Major League Baseball. And I'm not saying that's a problem, but that wouldn't matter. If the talent's sitting there and nobody knows how to evaluate or what to do with it, somebody else is going to come along and evaluate it and take it from you or those kind of things. When we were talking,
I was going to say, the next thing I would say, okay, they're sitting at 14th. Pull Leo DeVries out. Where are they at now? Do they drop to 21, 22? As bad as they've been for how many years now? Because he's a top 5 prospect. I think he's like number 2 right now as a MLB prospect. And that's going to bring your farm system up. Just pull him out, and how far do they drop?
These are the rankings by MLB.com. Louis DeVries is the number 2 prospect in all of Major League Baseball. Not number 2 for the A's, number 2 overall. Their next highest Major League Baseball prospect is Jamie Arnold, an outfielder who is the 41st overall ranked baseball prospect. I'm sorry, that's Drew Burris. He's the outfielder. Jamie Arnold is a left-handed pitcher who's 57th. So you go from the second best to 41st, 57th in all of the majors.
And to put that in perspective, the Dodgers I think the Dodgers and Brewers have 9 players in the top 100 in both organizations. That's why they're number 1 and number 2 in all of baseball. And you can't tell me the A's, they've picked higher than both of those teams for the last 10 years. And that just gets into your scouting, your player development, etc. You're missing.
When we promoted or previewed rather, the Phillies game yesterday, we were talking about the Phillies. Are they still in it? Are they hanging in with the Braves? But you were really focused on Aaron Nola. What is he going to show us? Well, he went out and he struck out 8 in 7 innings. The Phillies completed their 3-game sweep of the Marlins. 33-year-old Nola lowered his ERA to 2.51 in his last 5 starts, while once again featuring a lights-out knuckle curve, matched his season best with 9 strikeouts, 8 of which came on that knuckle curve. Nola is starting to show the Phillies, could the Phillies get there? They get to the show, and now you've got the postseason show, not the show. You got Zach Wheeler, Christopher Sanchez, Jesus Luzardo. Oh, and we got this guy Nola. Suddenly the Phillies sound like, yeah, they'll be fine if they can get there. They're 4.5 behind the Braves. They're in the wild card. Right now, they've got a 2-game lead on the Padres, who are the 3rd one. The pesky Cardinals are hanging around. That's who the Phillies will play starting tomorrow. Phillies are off today. How do you feel about the Phillies as they head into a weekend with the Cardinals just in general, and the Braves, who we'll get to in a moment, sitting there 4.5 ahead of them?
A really good outing by Nola, and the key for me is he gave up 1 solo homer. That was the only run he gave up in the 7 innings. I think that put him at 31 home runs he's given up so far in the season. So he has to keep the ball in the ballpark, but he has been pitching better for the last month and a half type of thing since the All-Star break. It just hasn't been getting the run support. They hung a 4th spot out there. Phillies offense, as good as they are, still don't score enough runs for me. I'm still a little questionable about their defense with everybody changing positions and learning how to play those positions at the major league level. But this is a solid team. Their bullpen is shaky. They do have some issues there, but Dave Dombrowski's never addressed it. And all the teams that he's, been the GM of or the president of, he just, that's the one position he just neglects, and you just got to live with it because he's going to give you a really strong rotation. We see that with Sanchez and Wheeler. If they get Nola going in the 4th spot, that will be helpful. And Schwarber, Turner, Harper, I mean, they go deep in the lineup. So I like the Phillies. Not sure they'll run down the Braves, but I think they should be someone to contend with in the playoffs because of their lineup strength and the top of the rotation pitchers. I mean, I get 4 starts out of Wheeler and Sanchez. I'll take them against anybody.
That's my question is do they need to run down the Braves? It's just a matter of when they get in there, that front 3.5 is a pretty solid, if they're all healthy, 3.5 that makes you go, because like you said, how did we go from it's Sanchez isn't even the ace of the staff all of a sudden?
I mean, he's not. It's Zach Wheeler right now.
So that they just need to hang on and stay in, and indications are they should, just to at least get to the postseason. With and this is where another weekend, I know it's only Thursday, and we'll talk more about it tomorrow, where we get to watch these teams and they should cannibalize, or at least somebody should emerge, because you've got the Phillies, as we said, they're tomorrow. They're going to play St. Louis. We gave you the overview just to where the Phillies stand. Then you've got the Chicago White Sox, who we mentioned earlier with their 4-game lead over the Minnesota Twins, who the Twins have won 3 in a row. White Sox, they pulled that one out against the Cubs. So the Twins now have the 4-game deficit to the White Sox, and then the Hawardians and the Tigers are 5.5 back. The White Sox are hosting Atlanta today, and then it gets more juicy after that as these two teams who are hanging on to their 4-ish game leads go at it one more time. Atlanta's got Grant Holmes, and the White Sox are throwing Anthony Kay this afternoon. Actually, that game just started about an hour ago. My apologies.
Yeah, and I believe the Braves just went up 1-0 on a homer. Braves have been struggling again, lost 3 in a row going into this game. The White Sox were able to throw a shutout yesterday to get that win against the Cubs. Grant Holmes, he's been solid, not great, but he's solid back into the rotation, guys. 7-5 ERA under 4, WHIP sitting at 1.35. So far this year, he's been better on the road. They're playing on the road today. Opponents are hitting 218 off of him in away games. His WHIP is 1.21. And in August, he's been good. His opponents are hitting 241. His WHIP is 1.28. But on August 4th and August 9th, that's not his last start, but the 2 starts prior to that. He didn't give up a run in either game, went 6 innings in both. So he has been throwing well, although his last outing out against Arizona gave up 6 in 3 2/3. But he's throwing the ball really well again today. Anthony Kay, surprise pitcher for the White Sox here. He was a top prospect with the Toronto Blue Jays organization. Solid year so far at home. He's 6-3, 3.22 ERA. His WHIP is 1.27. But in the last 2 months, July, he gave up 10 earned runs in 23 2/3. 3 earned runs in a game against the Yankees was the most he gave up. And so far in August, 3 outings so far, and he's given up 5 earned runs and 17 2/3. His WHIP is 1.25. So the guy has given up 3 or less runs in his last 8 outings, throwing another good game right now. He's given up the 1 solo blast he just gave up, and I want to say in the 4th inning, maybe it was the 5th, but another good outing. And the White Sox need that. They went into the season and everyone's like, they have no pitching at all. And so they need guys like Anthony Kay to step up and get the job done, and he has been for them.
And we documented earlier how in the American League, the East, the East is going to be playing the East for the most part the next many days, other than the Red Sox who are going to be playing the Giants. The West is going to be playing the West. And then it's just turning out that as we head into the weekend, a lot of the wild cards is a lot of the contenders are playing the contenders. So Steve just did the Braves and the White Sox there today. Well, to starting tomorrow, the Braves are in Milwaukee. What a great series. The Padres will host the Twins. I mean, talk about 2 teams that are both showing up like they're for real. Now we get to see them together in San Diego. Those damn Mariners, we already talked about them. They're going to host Chicago all weekend. I'm almost like, can the Cubs just go in and sweep the Mariners so that we can stop talking about them? Because when you look at this, I was going to ask you, all right, Steve, who's your surprise? You had to give me a surprise. I mean, in the American League, when all is said and done, I guess it would be a surprise, wouldn't it? Okay, I can create a surprise in the American League, Steve. Whoever wins the West, they're going to be in the playoffs because they won the West. So the surprise would be if the West pulls out a second team. How about that? That's the best surprise I can come, because other than that, would it be a surprise if the Tigers made the playoffs only in the text of they traded away Skubal and Mize? They're a game and a half out. So I don't know. It's a surprise for the length of the season, I guess.
The surprise is going to be the record of that last wild card team being below 500 and shaking your head and going, how can a team even make the playoffs and not play 500? But that's part of the beauty of this year in the American League. It's mediocre at best. And even the Mariners, as much as I keep saying over the last couple of weeks, they sucked. They gave up 5 more in the bottom of the first or whatever today. They're still only 2.5 out of the wild card. The thing that you were going over, the series I'm really looking forward to, as you brought up, the Braves playing the Brewers. The Brewers, we saw them go into LA, play the Dodgers, win 3 out of 4. We're battling for that top seed in the National League on who could get home field. The Dodgers got to love it. They hope that, they go whichever. They just split it 2-1, one way or another, so they can gain and they final sweep. I don't know who the Dodgers are playing this weekend, but that's going to be a great series. The Braves need a win today. They need to get out of that loss column. This will give them 4 losses in a row if they lose today. And hopefully they're now up 2-0 in the top of the 7th. So hopefully they can win and go into that huge series against the Brewers.
The Dodgers have the Pirates all weekend, and the Braves will beat up on Milwaukee. And on Saturday, it'll be Elder against Logan Henderson. And on Sunday, we will get Martin Perez against Shane Drohan. They're going to miss Miz by a game. It looks like in the Atlanta series, unless he's not throwing tomorrow. Oh no, he's throwing tomorrow. He's throwing tomorrow.
Who's tomorrow? We got Miz against Martin Perez. Give it to me. Who's in it?
Oh, Martin Perez is Sunday. Chris Sale against
Miz. Here's your
tomorrow.
Cy Young battle right here.
There it is.
Chris Sale and Mizorowski. What a great game. That should be the national game on whatever streaming device that I don't have, so I can't watch it tomorrow night.
Well, this is the double whammy of what you don't know when you make a schedule. It's a day game, first of all. Tomorrow, the Braves are at Milwaukee at 1:10 our time, so 4:10 or 3:10 even East Coast Central Time, and it's not on anything other than it looks like. Is it on the MLB Network? It's not even on the MLB Network. It's too early for the Apple Network. You're going to have the Major League Baseball package.
I have that. It's just when it goes into Netflix and Apple and Prime and who knows what other those. That's when I can't get those games. So, no, that'll be great. We finished the show. We're rolling to the weekend, and I can watch some Sale versus Mizorowski.
And if you're wondering, yes, we literally just made tomorrow about us entirely. So sorry if you don't have the package. We'll see you then, by the way.
This has been a presentation of the Rob and Steve Sports Show, brought to you by the Rad Network and is copyrighted by the radnetwork.com and Williams Broadcasting for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction, accounts, or descriptions of whatever Rob and Steve just talked about without the express permission of the Rad Network, Williams